Welcome back to Energy School. This is going to be lesson 4. Last lesson we defined alignment. Today we're going to restore it. And today we're going to talk about adjustment just a little more. Awareness showed us what was off. Alignment showed us where order begins. An adjustment is the movement that closes the gap between the two. So awareness and alignment are connected, but you do need to adjust. And I'll talk to you a bit about that now. We talked about things being in alignment or being misaligned. So that's a position. But adjustment is a decision. This is very important. Adjustment is a decision. You literally have to make the decision in order for the adjustment, right? Because the awareness, we talked about that. Ooh, you know what you're talking about. Cool, you're aware of things. But again, what are you going to do with it? What's the decision that you've made now that you have this new information? And now that you understand that you were either in alignment or misaligned, now what are you going to do? What decision are you going to make? Because one is recognition, the other is action. Because awareness, we spoke about it already, I'll remind you. Awareness equals information. We talked about this in one of the first lessons. If this is recognition and this is the action of it, then, for example, if your shoulder was out of place, right? You would need to actually move it in order for it to get better. You can't think it away, okay? So this is why it's an action that you must take. Restoring order requires movement. That's what I want to teach y'all today. Restoring order requires movement. You cannot stay in the same spot and expect results. You can't. No matter how you can't do it, okay? Okay. So let's have a chat about what adjustment really is. Adjustment is the movement back to order. Because if you're misaligned, you have to get there. You got to get to the point to where you got to get to, right? You have a goal and you got to get there. So we're talking about movement. And where are we going? We're not moving in a direction that doesn't serve our highest good or does not align with what God has for us. We are moving back to order. This is why we went into awareness, to really, really examine ourselves, right? We shouldn't be examining other people at all throughout this course. You should be definitely looking into your own heart so you can decide, where do you need the awareness? Where do you need the alignment? Where do you need the adjustment? Now, again, adjustment is the movement back to order. But let me tell you what adjustment is not. Adjustment does not equal punishment. Adjustment does not equal punishment. And sometimes we think, oh, this is weird. I don't like this. My environment is changing. People are being different. Yeah, well, you have to get, a little uncomfortable to move sometimes, right? When you're in the bed, you're adjusting your covers, you're adjusting your pillow in order for you to get comfortable, for you to have the order that you need in order for you to be peaceful enough, relaxed enough to actually go to sleep and feel comfort, right? Right. And that's never a punishment. Adjustment also is not panic. It's not about panicking, okay? You can't panic your way back to order. You're going to have to be, what? You're going to have to be someone who has fruit of the Spirit. And we know that one thing that God blesses us with is a steady grace, a steady movement, right? He's not chaotic. He's not an urgent God, because his time and our time are completely different. Adjustment is not overcorrection. You ever seen somebody that they like, okay, I'm not happy, or I want to change my situation, so I'm going to change everything. I'm going to shave my hair. I'm going to change my style. I'm going to talk like this. I'm going to walk like that. I'm going to change my friends. I mean, they threw the whole life away. But see, that's too much. You overcorrected it, right? And then this is when it might not stick. You might change some things, and then 2 weeks later, 2 days later, you regret everything because you really didn't do the work in order for you to be prepared for the changes that you're going to make, or the changes that God, right, is going to provide you the energy to make. Most people hear adjustment and they think loss or embarrassment or exposure. But adjustment is not humiliation, okay? It is recalibration. Case in point, if the clock that you looking at is 5 minutes too fast, you're not going to throw the whole clock away. You're going to adjust it, right? You're going to reset it. That's you. Reset yourself. Let me help you with how. God is not here to break you down every single time. Like that's not what's happening. He's not here to dismantle you. He's here to reposition you. Adjustment is God's reposition. But the thing is, you have to allow God to move, right? You can't be resistant, and God's, kind of trying to guide you, hold your hand, and you're like resisting, like you can't do that because this is God repositioning you. Isn't that what we want? Because like drifting is natural, right? That's natural. But staying in whatever issue you're in, that's not okay. I also want to talk to y'all about how overcorrection can, it'll lead you right back to misalignment. Okay, overcorrection, just trying to do too many things at one time to say like, oh, I'm gonna change this and change this so I can get the results that I need. Because if you think about it, that's really chaos, isn't it? For example, let's say somebody spent too much time online and it's brought to their awareness, right? They receive the information that says, okay, I've been spending too much time online. So what do? They delete a whole bunch of stuff without really coming to terms with it, right? Without it really being in alignment, and they do it very quickly, which is not really how God moves. We know that God is pretty steady, and God is not going to come to you with fear because God is not fear-based, right? We learned that. And God is not going to require more of you than you can bear, okay? Stay with me, stay with me. So for that person who deletes everything, you end up bored. You end up trading what you were already doing that you knew you had a problem with for something new that you're gonna tell you or try to convince yourself it's not as bad as whatever you were doing. You cannot bargain with God. In the book of Matthew, Jesus tells Satan that it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. You shall not tempt your God. Do not make a decision and then try to get God to agree with you. That's not gonna work. That's not adjustment, that's just a reaction. Adjustment is measured, stable, because adjustment will often lead you to stability. And adjustment is sustainable, y'all. It's sustainable. So think about this. If you are going to make a change in your life, how is that change going to look in 6 months? Not just today. Not just today. Like, this has to be a sustainable change that you're making in order for it to be in alignment with God's repositioning in your life. So let's talk about where adjustment actually begins. I've been low, but he left me still. Tears fall slow, but I know he will. So let's talk about adjustment. I'm living out my professor dreams right now. Y'all have no idea. Wanted to teach my whole life. All right, so if you've been in your notes, it's time to talk about the spirit, the mind, the body, and the actions. Adjustment does not start with behavior. It starts with belief. Okay? It doesn't start here. It starts here. If the spirit is misaligned, everything else has to compensate. It's like an uneven weight distribution. If submission is unclear, you're gonna chase control. Now, no submission equals no control. Because you're gonna think you're in control, but you should have figured out by now that you won't be the one in control. The enemy will be in control, okay? Let's just move on from that. If your thoughts in your mind are not disciplined, you're gonna justify your actions. You're gonna say, I'm grown and this is how I do it and I pay my own bills but I don't wanna, or because it's just gonna be excuse on top of excuse on top of excuse when people are really trying to help you. When you have no control over your spirit, or you don't allow God to control that spirit, you're gonna try to justify your thoughts because you're out of discipline. If the nervous system, okay, is overlooked, you're gonna have exhaustion. Again, if you don't have the spirit aligned, everything else is going to compensate. The energy distribution, the weight distribution, the responsibility of what you're supposed to be doing is going to keep getting passed down and keep getting passed down to the next level, and it's just going to overload that level. So see, we're pretty exhausted by now. The body is exhausted because the spirit was willy-nilly. The mind wasn't trying to hear it. Now we exhausted because the body is trying to take over for everything that all 4 components are supposed to do together. So let's talk about how this can play out in actions. Now, if your habits are built out of misalignment, because this is all misalignment, When your habits are built out of misalignment, it's going to guarantee that you're going to be praying and praying, but guess what's going to happen? No changes. And it's going to be a cycle over and over. You're going to come back over here, but you're going to not submit. You're going to come back over here, you're going to keep justifying, you're going to keep experiencing exhaustion, and you're still not going to see no results. You cannot adjust your behavior trying to protect the beliefs that created it, right? Over here justifying why you don't want to submit to God because I don't know God, I can't hear God's voice. Yes, you can. Because God told you don't call him back. God told you don't answer the phone. God told you that. Every time that you were protected, that was God. We really cannot protect ourselves. We might think we're protecting ourselves. A lot of the time, we're really hurting ourselves by thinking that we have the authority, right? The authority over here spiritually to control ourselves. But this is because so many people are in this self-help world. Self-help books and self-esteem this and be your own leader and mastery of self-love, and baby, you are nothing without God. Promise you. This is going to be the lesson that actually wraps up week 2. So, hey, we don't have time to be playing around. So we're talking about adjustment, but let's get practical with it. Let me give you some examples of some things you can really do. Okay, let's talk about the physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of adjustment. Okay, so over here with physical, let's talk about some physical changes that you can make to some issues you might be having or some misalignments that you might be having. Let's say you're just having a problem with exhaustion when you wake up. You know you have to do stuff. You were mentally prepared, or you thought you were, but for some reason you are actually exhausted, right? You can go to sleep earlier instead of scrolling on your phone. No scrolling, all right? Some physical things that you can do to adjust. No scrolling, okay? Or at least before bed. Do something else to calm your mind, because you may not be understanding how the physical and mental are playing a part, and the spiritual, right? Because the scrolling that you do, the keeping yourself up when you know you should be going to sleep, or consuming more information or becoming more aware of all of these things that you really don't need, right? Because awareness is information, and you really have to be careful with what you are absorbing, right, through your screen and scrolling. So sometimes you might think, oh, this is how I relax, but actually your mind is going to continue to go with all of the new information that you just received right before bed. So now you're asleep, but you're not really resting because your mind is still processing information. So it's a really good idea to stop scrolling before bed if you are waking up still tired. Let's say your issue is disorganization, or you need to organize your house, or your house is in a bit of disarray, and so you say, oh, I'm gonna reorganize the whole house. No, just go in one room, clean one counter off, you know, start small, because adjustments again are about taking steps. It's not a big leap, right? It's about taking steps that will get you in order. Over here, this is just about reducing stimulation. Let's talk about the mental. These internal debates that y'all keep having. So you make a decision, but then you keep going back and forth in your mind about it, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I'll just do a little bit of this, or let me call such and such and get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that to yourself? You made a decision. You should stick with it. The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Now, over here in mental, you can also agree to stop replaying old conversations that you have in your head. Stop replaying old things over and over. He did this, she said that, I felt this way. Everything be past tense in y'all head. Everything be past tense. That happened. It's not happening. And it's not probably bound to happen, right? But you overplaying stuff in your head over and over. You're doing it to yourself. Stop it. The mental debates, stop it. Release comparison, because your mind will have you comparing yourself to so many people. Such and such had a purple on today and it looks so good on her skin. I want to see if purple look good on my skin. Or I like that head wrap, so I want to try that head wrap. And just comparing yourself. Or, oh man, this person's more blessed than me, or God loves them more than me. Because stop it. Release comparisons, y'all. I'm giving you practical steps on how to allow movement and adjustment in your life. Allow God to reposition you by reducing stimulation, okay? Releasing comparisons. If you decide to leave something, but you keep mentally revisiting it, you are undoing your own adjustment. You are literally working against God. An undecided mind drains energy. Clarity conserves it. Now this one spiritually, I'm gonna say, Ooh, God been on me. So I've personally been doing a lot of this. First, we're gonna remove the misplaced trust. What are you trusting? Who are you trusting that's misplaced? What was in misalignment? And what was the authority over it? Was it you? Was it something someone else said? Was it a movie you watched? Was it, given to you? Is it internal, external, cultural or spiritual? All of those things matter because you have to remove the misplaced trust. Because again, the belief got you where you are, and you got to remove it. You got to remove the misplaced trust that you have, whether it's in yourself, somebody else, don't know, because you need it to be in alignment with God, because we are all a part of God's body. So I need you and you need me. I need you in alignment and you need me in alignment with what? God's will. Okay? Because when adjustment comes, it's God's reposition. You need to help by reducing stimulation, releasing comparisons, and removing misplaced trust. But that's not all. You're also going to need to renounce your attachments. What are you attached to? You're gonna have to renounce them. Give them up. Denounce, renounce. I see where this is taking me off path, so I'm gonna remove that from my life. I'm going to drop that. I'm gonna do that. I am going to throw that away. Okay, you get what I'm saying? I am going to turn away from that. I'm gonna decide, no thank you. You get what I'm saying? But I am going to help God reposition me by giving God the movement in my body, right, that I need. And it comes from the spiritual. You have to renounce your attachments. Renounce your attachments. That's not all. You have to return authority to where it belongs, which is with God. Authority is God's. It is not yours. You cannot make a tree. You can plant a tree, but you can't make a tree. You can't make an orange. You can plant it, right? But there's not much that you can actually create that represents anything that God can actually do. So the craziness of, well, since God is within me and I cannot fail, since people like to misquote scripture, when you do that, you've removed the authority from where it belongs. You start telling yourself that you're capable. You start telling yourself that you're a God. And then when things don't happen for you, you end up mad and sad, or you're trying to cast a spell, just getting further and further and further away from God's real repositioning in your life. Symbolic comfort. If something became symbolic comfort, a ritual, object, an identity, and you realize that the dependence on it removed you from God, the only adjustment is to remove it. Removal. Denounce. Renounce. Turn away. There's no rationalizing about it. You cannot make a decision to follow God and then try to get God to reason with you on what you want to hold on to. You are either going to let the things go that God brings to your awareness that are issues or misalignment, or you're not. It's very simple. God not going to compete for authority. Compete for what? You love the bottle. That's your authority. You love that man. That's your authority. You love that money. That's your authority. You love yourself. That's your authority. But God not going to compete with all of it. God not going to compare himself to you. God not a man. He ain't going to do all of this. God not going to be stubborn, right? God's going to do God. God's going to be God. Now let's talk about why this actually feels uncomfortable, because I know it does. Let's talk about why. Y'all might not know this, but discomfort does not equal danger. As soon as y'all get uncomfortable, you be like, oh, I'm scared of that, or oh, that's not for me, or oh, that's witchcraft, or that's demonic. As soon as you uncomfortable, baby, you call it everything but God's repositioning for you. As soon as you're uncomfortable, all of a sudden it's the devil. Imagine how God feels when God gets to moving things in your life, blessing you with new things, but you think it's a problem. Imagine how God has to feel. I'm sorry for us all. When order returns, chaos is going to resist. So the parts of you that are resisting your own transformation, that's where you need to start. That's the chaos. That's the misalignment right there. When you are not in comfort, it doesn't automatically equal danger. Some people register things as danger and then they say, oh, I can't do that. I don't want to hurt myself. What? Hurt yourself? God got you. God repositioning you. What are you talking about? Your nervous system is going to prefer, your normal patterns. Your nervous system is going to prefer regulation. So whatever you're already doing, your nervous system is going to require that, or it's going to want that. It's going to crave that. When you get uncomfortable and you're not quite in that, that does not automatically mean that you are in danger. I want to explain that clearly. If you used to stress, then peace is going to feel like danger. Because if your normal comfort is stress, then peace is going to feel weird to you. If you're used to noise, silence is going to bother you. They got people who be like, well, I grew up with a big family, so I'm used to, so what does you having a whole bunch of siblings and living around a whole bunch of people have to do with the fact that you're too loud? What does it have to do with anything? Nothing. It's your excuse, right? It was that part right here that we were talking about where you're going to justify. It's the mental. You're going to justify where you gave your authority to. Yeah, I know. I'm learning too. I'm loving these lessons too. I'm watching these lessons too. I'm doing the workbook too. This is my favorite part of the lesson every time. Let's talk scripture. 1 Corinthians 14:33 states, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Yeah, that's included. Same sentence, same scripture. It's not separate. It does not stop at, for God is not the author of confusion. It says, but of peace. So again, for God is, if he's not the author of confusion, then God is the author, right, of peace. Right? He's not the author of confusion. For God is the author of peace, y'all. Peace. Peace, that silence, that quiet, that steadiness. Yeah, that boring. Yeah, y'all call it boring. Okay, let's just call it that. Y'all call it boring. Why y'all calling God boring? All right. Okay. If confusion increases after you make a decision, you decide to do something, you act on it, whatever, but you get more confused, then order has not been restored. There's really no real adjustment. If confusion increases after you make this decision, you've done something wrong, because the result of God repositioning you will be peace. But if peace stabilizes, if peace does stabilize after you make this adjustment, even quietly, adjustment is working. Wow. If peace start coming into your life, even if it's quiet, even if nobody says, oh, I see you, even if it's not this big change that you're thinking of, adjustment is working. But it's a reposition. It's a process. It's a process. Peace is the confirmation. A lot of y'all are looking for confirmation in your life, and I'm here to share with you that peace is the only confirmation that you need with any situation. In any given situation, the only confirmation that you need is peace, clarity. Okay? All right, so let's talk about how you can help God reposition you and adjust you with daily practices, right? Because you don't want everything to have to take forever or 3 months. Like, you don't know how long God's going to take, so the best you can do is work every day on it, every single day, because you don't know when God's going to do something. You don't know. All right, so for daily restoration, we have notice, correct, stabilize. I want y'all to also know that restoration is not a one-time thing. Like, it's going to continue to happen over and over. So you're going to solve one issue in your life, and then you're going to realize that you just got more stuff to work on. And I don't want y'all to get discouraged, because life is about endurance. You're going to notice awareness. You're going to notice the information. When you correct, this is intentional. This is intentional movement here. All right, so when you go to correct something, this is when you are intentional about changing it. Intentional movement. I gotta underline intentional so y'all understand you have to put your intent into it. Your whole heart has to be in it. To stabilize, you gotta repeat it until it's natural. So if we go back to the person or the situation where you're not getting enough sleep, or you're just exhausted in the morning, listen, the first night that you decide to go to sleep early, or not scroll, or not watch TV, or not be on the phone, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. It's just gonna be weird, but by night 5, you're gonna be looking forward to it. You're gonna be used to it. You're gonna get the repetition is gonna make it feel more natural to you, because that's how you got in the pickles that you in. You did that over and over and over. That's why you're comfortable with it, because you do it every day. That's why you're comfortable with it, not because it's right, not because it's in alignment. Okay? You're gonna notice things in your day-to-day life, pulling your awareness up. You're gonna correct those things with intentional movement, and you're gonna stabilize it by repeating those intentional movements until it's natural to you. This is how you correct behaviors. This is how you drop habits. This is how you turn away. You have to continue to work on it and continue to work on it. It's not just you making the decision in your mind, right? Your spirit has to be intact. Your body has to go with it so that your actions can show the results, because God has to work through you. Because energy responds to rhythm. So you have to repeat and create a flow. You got to create a wave. And when rhythm returns, the friction is going to decrease. The problems, the chaos, the noise, the confusion, it will decrease. All right, y'all, listen, you're not rebuilding yourself from scratch. I'm not trying to get you to throw away every bit of yourself, okay? That's not what the mission is. You're just restoring the things that have drifted. You're just going to help God reposition you. And yes, you have to help God. Even though God is powerful, you have to be a willing vessel. A willing vessel. You have to be willing. Don't make God force you. Because he gave you free will. He's probably not going to force you to do it. Order invites peace, y'all. And peace is from God, right? Peace will protect your clarity. And clarity sustains energy. This is how it all works together, y'all. That's going to be the end of the video portions, the recorded lessons for week 2, where we spoke about alignment and adjustments. I'm excited to talk to you all on Friday for our group discussion for both of these lessons. Make sure that you get in your workbooks and you get prepared. I'm ready to talk to y'all. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see y'all next time.